over something, Gary, you better tell me. Hey, welcome back to Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Alexis Burton, and today we have a really special guest with us. We have Stephanie Young. Stephanie has her doctorate in law from Georgia State University. She's the 2026 president of the Newton County Bar Association, also a member of the Newton County Kiwanis Board, and has been voted not once, not twice, but 3 years in a row as the best family law attorney from the Covington News. So first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. It was not planned that we dressed the same. That was totally random. And fun fact, Stephanie was born in Halifax, UK.
Yes, West Yorkshire.
I was born near Halifax, Nova Scotia. So it was meant to be.
Twinning.
Anyway, I asked Stephanie to be on today because, again, collaboration is really important. I see in session a lot of pre-divorce clients, custody battles, even people who are in the middle of divorce or post-divorce. So mental health effects is kind of, there's a collaboration that needs to happen. I believe it's important that it takes a village sometimes to get through some of these major issues, mental health struggles.
It is. I mean, it's like anything in life. You know, you hear that phrase, it takes a village, to raise kids, but what about me? What about us as adults? And you mentioned that different aspects of post-divorce, during the divorce, custody modifications, all those different life stages. I mean, there really is, I'm sure you probably see this in your mental health with your clients, that it's stages of their life. I mean, you're going to think back of, that's when I was going through a divorce. It was significant life events, obviously.
I talk about it a lot. I've been through divorce, so yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I pick up on that. And so, and I represent such a range. I mean, as far as family law litigation, run the gamut of what that entails. I do it. So, I see all of those aspects. So people might coming to meet with me trying to say, okay, I don't know if I want a divorce yet. And that's okay. We're just talking, right? And it's, but can you give me some advice on what that might look like, or, what can I do to plan for that, or, just to kind of get some general advice moving forward. And so I see that range.
It's so scary. I mean, it is scary. It is scary from a female perspective. I know, I'm sure it's scary from a male perspective as well, but it's just that I don't know what to expect, especially if it's your first one. You've never done it before. You're like,
well, even for people that have done a divorce before, it's almost sometimes it's worse because then they know what they're about to experience. They're like, here we go.
It's the anticipation. It's the anxiety buildup.
And they know that it's a big life event, which, I mean, it should be, right? I mean, we shouldn't be looking at divorces like, this is no big deal. Like, we're just going to run through this. It is a big life event. But going back to what you're saying about collaboration, I think that it would be ignorant to ignore the fact that anything to do with family law is going to also affect you mentally. It's not, and most of what I do is as a counselor of the law.
Yes.
Obviously not your position as
it's just different. It's the same, but different.
It is. And it's about, okay, what can I walk you through? What can I do to try to prepare and kind of plan for what I think you as a personal client, because everybody's different. And I'm sure you probably see that with your clientele, that you get to know them. And I think if you don't, and you treat each divorce or each custody modification like a cookie cutter book, you're not going into that. You're not going to be a great advocate for that person.
No.
That's just my opinion, but I've seen it. That comes from experience of, you get to know that person a little bit. Obviously, there's that professional relationship, right? I mean, I'm only meeting with you so many times and getting to know the extent of what that is. But it's still getting to know you enough to be able to say, okay, this is comfortable for them, or this is not comfortable for them, or kind of. No one. I have this phrase that no one through divorce, no one wins, right? It's not. You're not a winner. You're going to be divorced. But are you satisfied? Are you satisfied? Are you going to be okay with that? So if we're in a mediation, for example,
right?
Are you okay at the end of the day with accepting that? If not, you have to really reflect on that with my legal advice to tell you should not be okay with that. We can do better. Or this is within the realm of what I think the judge is going to do. Your particular judge. now you have to self-reflect and say, but am I okay with this?
Right.
Because if it's something that you're not okay with and it's just going to stick with you and you're going to be upset about it, then I'm going to be like, we're not going to, don't agree to that.
More turmoil.
Don't agree to that. Yeah. Because you're just going to, I'll probably get the kickback, right? They're going to be like, you shouldn't have let me agree to that.
Oh,
anyway.
yeah, of course.
So, just, I think it would be ignorant to treat cases as a whole, specifically in the family law aspect of the law.
Exactly.
And that's why I like it a lot. I like, people always kind of come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, family law. Like, other attorneys that don't do family law, they're like, it's the worst of the law. Oh my gosh.
Well, in my realm, everybody hates doing couples.
Yeah.
No, like you say, do you got no couples, because there's a large failure rate in it. We're last ditch effort, right? It's already like to the point where they're thinking about divorce and, let's go to therapy and fix it. Well,
and if it didn't fix, it's your fault.
and that rate's really,
Yeah. Well, and so I get the same thing, right?
Yeah.
That's a known thing. Like no one wants to do family law, and but I'm like, so sometimes I do a self-reflect where I'm like, why do I like it? Why do I put
deep dive into this?
Sometimes I'm like, why do I put myself through this? But no, why? And I think it goes back to that, looking at the collaboration. I love the mental health aspect of it. I love that someone comes to me and they can I can be their shoulder that they just, to lean on in terms of throw everything you got at me. Let me organize it for you and help guide you through this really complex process, that.
Well, yours is a helping profession, just in not the mental health way or the physical. It's more the legal.
Yeah, right.
You're still helping.
Right. And it's being an advocate for them. And I think that's why I think I like that area of law. I think about other areas. Obviously, I like to litigate, so I like to be in the courtroom.
Yeah.
But there's other types of law you can do. You can do criminal defense. You can do, which, I do some of that, but you could do that. You could focus solely on that. You can do contract dispute. You can do civil cases that aren't family law.
There's real estate. There's all kinds of law, like literally tax law. I mean, you name it.
That puts you in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Because I like litigating, so I like to be in the courtroom. But it's like, but why do you like the family law? And I think, again, it's because it's not just cookie cutter. Every situation is so different because it's the emotional aspects, the mental health aspects that come into play. Even if it's the same, they've got one house and 2 credit cards and, 2 kids. Okay, the factual basis could match up, right? They're very consistent for the most part, but it's never going to be the same because each person behind those factual basis is somebody different and somebody new, and how they're, what they're satisfied with or okay with, or what, how they accept this news or don't accept this news. Is going to be totally different.
Even their views on divorce.
Yes.
I mean, that can be drastically different.
It is where, I mean, and you don't, and again, I guess that goes back to the collaboration in terms of, there have been people, and it's not like, I don't think that they come to my office for a consultation and think, you're going to tell me whether or not I need a divorce, right? That's really not the right office. Maybe, maybe that again is a mental health of, where are you at in your life and asking those questions. But financially, I'm going to say, well, you should probably find out these passwords or something before.
Right.
Before
here's some like
tips. Maybe get a little. If you've been home, maybe get a little side job. Maybe start saving some money.
Maybe start pre-planning.
Yeah. I get to kind of be like your secretive best friend there, where I'm like, do some of these things. We won't talk about it, and then come back.
Yes.
No, but
no,
really,
yeah, for sure. Even on the mental health side, I'm like, okay, let's mentally prepare for this.
Right.
Even if it doesn't happen, we still have to kind of have some preparedness for it because we don't know.
Right.
You might wake up tomorrow and be like, nah, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And that's happened. I mean, I hear literally the amount of times today alone, probably 3 different clients talked about either in the middle of divorce, pre-divorce, questioning, it's a very common theme in my room, unfortunately, but
at least they're coming to you, right? Like, and that's kind of what I start. I'm not saying I start to flag that and try to hand out, cards, but for real, as far as when I'm talking to clients, I do have that hyper awareness of, you got to take care of you.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell when somebody's distraught about it. You can tell when they need. But even for me, like in my personal journey, I was the one who asked for the divorce.
Yeah.
But all of my married friends, which are no longer, they pick. They either one or the other.
Yeah.
They chose his side, I guess, because I was the one who asked. I still had to grieve the marriage. Like, I still had to
Right.
grieve the man that I spent 11 years with, that I've known since I was 14 years old. Like, I still had to go through that process and grieve it.
And I try to be sensitive, to that aspect. So, I mean, I have clients that come in to pick up like a copy of their final decree, right? And they'll be like, yes, awesome. I'm coming right now. I want to, I want to hold it in my hands.
Celebrate.
I want to have, this party. And you know what? That, you've trusted me to walk you in that process, and this is where you're at. That's great. Like, there's no judgment there. It's great that you are, obviously this is bringing you happiness and closure. But then I also am sensitive to the fact that there's other people that I hold their hand while the decree is being signed in open court, and they're bawling.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't go back to, it's not judgment, and it's not to say, oh, you don't want to do this? Well, no, no, that's not what it's about. It's just about, and it doesn't, I pretty much can almost anticipate that that's coming from those clients.
Right,
because it's been a process, and and that's just they're grieving the end of that, right? Like the end, like it's like having a baby, right? Like the pregnancy's over. Oh my gosh, hallelujah, I'm not having any more babies. I'm so excited. Or it's I'm grieving. That was my last pregnancy. I'm never, I'm sad
I've dealt
about
with that too. Yes.
Right?
And
so, there's no judgment in that, but it's if we're looking at, as a lawyer, if you're looking at every case and just rolling your eyes at people that are crying about it, I think you're doing the client a big disservice.
You're in the wrong. You're in the wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe you should do criminal law or something. But I think you definitely are. And I think it's important to note that everybody does deal with that different. Can you touch on kind of the strong mental health aspects that you see directly in your clients when it comes to divorce?
Yeah. So, we'll say divorce just specifically because that is more so the most, I would say, emotional toll. Definitely not downplaying other aspects like custody modifications or legitimation.
And we'll have you on at a later date to talk about that because it's like two different. I mean, if you've been through a divorce, and there's kids involved, it's together, but it's very
different because you're
distinct.
dealing with your life moving on, the emotional aspect, and then now being a single parent.
Yeah. So we'll go down that rabbit hole. Yes, but from a divorce aspect, I guess.
Yeah, and so there again, it goes back to the range, but what I really see is I see the idea of some cases come as like protective order situations or criminal bond conditions. There's that actual physical safety element. And although I hate that people, are in those situations, I love being an advocate for people that are going through things like that because again, I've got experience with criminal law. I was a public defender for several years litigating, criminal defense work. And so, it's just that idea of you really need an advocate. Like, you definitely should not, just like you shouldn't do your own surgery. You shouldn't be your own lawyer.
Right.
But
agreed.
And that's not
or
just a
your
plug.
own mental health
that's
counselor.
Genuine. That's genuine, right?
ChatGPT is great, but
yeah. Talk about cookie cutter, right? And so, just kind of going back to that is I love when those people find me and I can advocate for them because those are the people, the clients that aren't used to having a voice.
Yes.
And so being able to say, I'm advocating for you. And then at the end saying, I'm kind of handing off the torch and you're going to be your own advocate.
It's empowering.
Yes.
I get to see it too from my end.
Although I hate the situations that start that way, I do see those being the biggest, I think, need for that mental health in terms of when I'm saying I'm having those conversations of, you're doing a lot right now because there's a bond condition where your husband had to move out or a protective order. We got that put into place where your husband is not in the home, and that's quick. Obviously in a divorce, that's going to eventually happen. But that's, emotionally, that's a lot for it just to happen. Like, okay, within, a week, let's say he's put his hands on you or she's put, I've also had plenty of those.
Oh,
she's put
I've
her
actually
hands
dealt with it myself
on, on him. And, so now all of a sudden you are solo parenting in this house, in the same bed that you were last week sleeping with your life partner with. And so those are really the cases where it's just because of the quite big extreme jump, especially like the time wise, that I'm seeing, okay, you've got to focus on you too, though. Right now you're balancing a lot in terms of, figuring out the solo parenting, figuring out, wait a minute, what's that bill password? Because they always did that, or they always picked up the kids, or they always, and trying to figure that out. That's, that's that aspect, but then it's, the emotional aspect of all of that. Plus, if there was criminal aspects to it, not just fear of, but actually something happening, maybe you're having to testify at grand jury, or, you've got that lingering criminal case. And then let's say, for example, let's add the dimension of the kids are like, well, dad says it's your fault that he's out of the house, or why are you and daddy fighting?
Nothing worse than when they bring the kids involved. Like it hurts my heart.
And even just kids' observation, even if the parents don't mean for that to happen, kids are a lot more,
I know. They feel energy, man. You don't have to say anything. They feel it.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you.
And they hear and see things. You think they're asleep. They're not. They're listening. And all that to say that those are the clients that I'm like, but what about you for a minute? And again, my clients aren't surprised to hear that from a lawyer, but I feel like if you're looking at social norms, that's an oddity to hear from a lawyer, to say, what about you? How are you okay? And I'm not here to tell you advice if you're not, right? But I am here to remind you, this is a lot. I'm a lawyer, and I'm still telling you that this is not an average, run of the Joe case. Are you okay? Yeah. And even if you think you are or saying you are, to keep that is going to be hard unless you actively realize and get a handle of it by talking to a professional.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't know how many times I'm like, I can't legally advise you on anything. So here's a great, call Stephanie. She's got you. Yeah. Like she's the one that you want to talk to. And we were talking when we were talking on the phone before. I want to bring this up because I think it's important. Also, we were talking about how it is important because I've had clients who've gone into Atlanta to get the big fancy high profile lawyers to come out to Walton County, Georgia. That's my best redneck impression.
You did that, not me. I'm not even going to try.
But the thing is, those judges know y'all. Yeah, they know the local lawyers. Yeah. You guys are used to working together, and you get a feel for it. But if you go, like, people think, oh, well, if I hire this rich lawyer, it's going to benefit me. No, it's not.
Right.
Stay within your local areas, your local, 2, 3, 4 counties. Don't. Bigger isn't always better.
Right. And so, on that realm is what I just tell people. I mean, I get calls a lot. Oh, I've got this case in Cobb or Fulton or DeKalb, even DeKalb. And I know it's not that far. And what I tell people is, I have friends from, it is. And I have friends from high school or, where I grew up and that are like, well, can you take this on? And I'm like, I really appreciate that. And I would love to be able to. I would love to be able to advocate for people that I know specifically, but I don't. And the reason, I could easily take that business, but I don't. And it's not because obviously people are like, well, are you only licensed in this county? No, you're licensed in the state of Georgia.
Right.
Once you pass the bar.
Yeah, it's the same for us.
But it's the fact that especially in family law, and this is where I really speak to this on family law, because it's a equitable distribution state in Georgia. So what does equitable mean? My clients are probably like, oh, well, here she goes again. Because they hear me say this. What does equitable mean? It's not 50-50. Sometimes it could be, but that's not the definition. So it's what's fair. Well, what's fair? It's what the judges think are fair.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait a minute. Oh my gosh. Are you able to tell me any definites? Well, you're in luck because I do know, let's see what judge you're assigned to. Or what judge, we haven't filed yet, what judge you could be assigned to. We have 5 in our circuit here, which is Newton and Walton County.
Yep.
Or, if it's Rockdale, there's 2. And, I can within the surrounding counties kind of be able to tell you how many there are and what the options are. Or maybe it'd be good if we get this one, or, hey, any of them are great, or, it just depends on the nuances of the case. But for me to be able to sit down and say, that this is what I think they won't like this, or I know that this is a big deal to you, but the judge is not going to care. Something like, I'm not going to go into it because that could be a whole lengthy conversation. But let's say that people are committing adultery, right? Like after the separation, you're still married. Absolutely. That is not right. And some judges that I go in front of would tear that up, be like, oh my gosh, that's awful. And use that against, to say, well, you don't deserve this or you don't deserve that because you've done that. Other judges are like, okay, but they've been separated, right? and I'm not here to judge that. They're the judge, and I just know their nuances.
Yeah.
And so I'm the one, I just get to be the bad guy that's like, client, I know that's a lot to you. And I'm not saying that that's okay.
Right.
But I'm just saying it's not something that the judge is going to care about. The judge is going to care. And, and so because of that, it's just this, I mean, I'm part of obviously family law listservs where, attorneys, we collaborate, ask questions,
of course,
vent, that sort of thing on socials and, private groups. And a lot of times you'll get on there and you'll see people that are like, oh, can someone tell me about this judge in Walton or this judge in Newton? And
we have the same in mental health, by the way.
Okay,
we have the same close groups where we're like, all right.
Yeah, can you give me the feedback?
I need some advice.
And a lot of people will be like, oh, that's the Wild West out there. And I love to jump in and be like, right here. I'm your girl right here. Like, I can tell you, and that's sort of, there's value in that. And I think that,
a lot of value,
it's good to have that fake it till you make it, but you don't want your attorney to have that, right? Like,
or your mental health counselor.
Like, should your brain surgeon be giving you heart surgery? No. They went to med school. Okay, but that's not the same thing.
It's so funny because I had brain surgery a few years ago, and I said to my husband at the time, I said, if he walks in and he's shaking, we're out.
Done.
I was like, we're done.
Yeah. It's like most people are like, let me see your resume. What did you? No, I want to look at you up and down. Did you get sleep last night?
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah.
Let me really. Yeah. You should vet those sort of people.
Right. And I actually, to kind of talking about vetting and what that goes to and maybe tying that back into, I do consultations where I do require consultations where I sit down with you up to an hour. I prefer that to be in person. That just goes to my style. Is that what every lawyer does? No. Do I care? No. But that's what's valuable to me and what I found to be valuable to my clients is that let me first make sure that, and I'm sure you have the same thing with mental health. Let me make sure that there's that jive there.
Yeah.
In the sense of, it's very flexible. I don't judge people when they're going through, I have people that come in super angry and not directed at me. I get that. But, super angry or super emotional or scared or quiet.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to ask too. Is it like, what are the emotions? I know I get anger a lot on the divorce end.
Yeah. It is
sadness, grief.
It's a mix.
Fear.
You'll have some people that it's not much of any of it, right? It's hard to read them and they're looking at it. And I respect that for some people, that's not there. Or maybe they've been separated so long that's gone. It was there and it's not there anymore.
It's just like transactional.
It becomes transactional. And I'm there for that too.
Yeah,
I obviously.
They still need a lawyer.
Yeah. And they still need advocates even on the transactional aspects or at least to make sure that it's all done correctly. But, as far as I would say, that's a minority. Yeah. So a lot of what I see is the grieving part, the anxiety, and the anger. But the anger doesn't tend to come out until we're doing things in the case and the case is going on, and the other party does something that they just didn't expect. That sort of they start to see that separation. Like we're not like spouses anymore, right? Like I can't talk you into doing what I want you to do, or
no more manipulation,
or really just the other spouse just does something shitty, like they withdraw a bunch of money from the bank, or they didn't pay that bill, and the order says they were supposed to pay it. And I validate that would make me really mad, and sometimes it does as the lawyer.
Yeah,
I'm like depends on like how the extent of that, because I've been doing it long enough not to take the things personal. At work, I compartmentalize.
You have to.
But it's still not too much to where it's like, yeah, that's not my bill, but dang, like, what are they going to do? That's very stressful. And how can we, jump on that in terms of whether we need to do an emergency order or something along those lines? But all that to say, I see that. And I think sometimes just me validating, I think people would be surprised how effective that is. And I don't do it fakely. I mean, what I mean by that is like disingenuinely. So if people are like, oh my gosh, they did this and I'm so mad. And I'm like, take it down. Maybe they did that because they were stressed about this, or, I do try to,
perspective.
I am not, again, my clients probably roll their eyes at saying this, but you don't pay me to tell you what you want to hear. And that's in not just legal advice, but that's also just in personal advice. Like you're taking the fact that they didn't bring back your daughter's favorite shoes to your house. And again, I'm not validating that that's a real, I spent $40 on those shoes and I'm never going to see him again. I don't not say that there's value in that. I get it.
However,
I get it. But if we're looking at the grand scheme of things, is that something you could text your friend about and probably vent? Yeah. And I don't want, so if you're coming, I always feel like if you're coming to me to tell me as your lawyer, it obviously matters. It's a big deal to you.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to come and tell me that if it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have to sometimes say, that's a big deal to you. And that's important, right? But in the grand scheme of things, it's
so you
not.
ground them in some ways.
That's
Like you're
the
very
mental
you're
health
more
world we're grounding,
you're more grounding them in reality because
Yeah.
when we get up in emotions,
Yeah.
it can be, especially from a female perspective, because we are emotional beings. It can be very
Yeah, and
flighty,
but I think it's the way
for
that
lack of a better term.
and there's some, and again, I'm not judging, but it's style. And from my experience, what I've seen is there's some attorneys that are like, oh yeah, that's horrible. Let's file a motion on it. And then, because they're getting paid to do that. Like it is a business. You're going to pay them and they're going to make the money and you're going to lose the motion. And you might even have to pay the other party's attorney's fees because it was so frivolous. But, you asked them to do it and they did it. That's not me. And I don't think you get the reputation that you get and not the reputation that, that I have to say that. Like I'm going to come and say, I'm not putting my name to that because it's just, I'm not going to get up in front of court and argue this for the judge to be like, really? Like, and off the record be like, really? Like, what? This is crazy. Why are we in court over this? Like, couldn't y'all have just like had a little, email back and forth with counsel and figure this out, or even the parties talk. And so I don't put my name to things like that in terms of, so it is important to be the bad guy, but you build that rapport with the client first so that you're not coming in as just the bad guy. Like, oh, that child support number you wanted, that's not going to happen. Yeah, I have to say that because you don't want to pay your attorney to tell you, yeah, I think that could happen, and then go to court to be blindsided. That's crazy. Because what are you paying for that?
I literally have heard some crazy,
Yeah.
like, I'm going to get $3,000 of child support, and my eyes get as big as saucers. I'm like, you really need to talk to a lawyer.
And that goes, but then that could, again, that goes back to.
And maybe you will.
I don't think that lawyer, and maybe the lawyer really thought you could. But again, maybe your lawyer also is 3 hours away and has no idea.
No idea.
And it's not, and that goes back to the family law. It's not because, okay, on the book, well, you could get this deviation when those are child support words.
Right.
You could get this because the law supports that there is an argument to be made for that to happen. And maybe in the county that they practice in, that's common, right? But then I'm like, whoa, not here.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly here.
That's why it's important to stay local.
It is.
Yep.
It is.
No,
Full
for
circle
real.
moment. No, it really is. And so, and I'm the first one to say, I will try to link you with someone in that county, but I don't do that because I'm not, again, not just doing it for the money. It's the whole perspective of, advocating for somebody. And I just can't give you that same level that you deserve of representation to say, this is the nuances of what the judge thinks about that sort of thing. And I'll, even if we get a new judge, in one of our circuits, obviously it's not often, thankfully, the judge's turnaround is not bad. But it happens, people retire and you get new judges. And I'm like, full disclosure, this judge just took the bench this date. So we're kind of figuring it out together, but then I'll go sit on more court dates to get in front of them to get to see, what are they doing? That's what you want. But back to the mental health aspect, it's building that rapport with the client so that way when you do, it's inevitable, are going to tell them something that they don't want to hear about their case. It is well respected and taken that way instead of, oh, I thought you were my lawyer. You don't like, you're not fighting for me.
Yeah.
You're not fighting for me. You're not, you're just siding with him or her or, and it's like, luckily I don't hear that a lot. And it's because I know how important building that rapport is. Because if you came to me and I had this idea that I was going to get all this child support, we'll just keep on that example.
Right.
Then I'm going to be disappointed when I'm like, wait a minute, what's that number? Because in my head I thought of something else. But
for child support, isn't there like a calculation?
Well, there is, but there's so much.
I'm sure there's other stuff, but there is a calculation that goes into that, right?
It's like a little computer robot. In the sense, it's not like actual math, but like where you write it on a piece of paper. It is a robot in a sense where you input,
you plug the stuff in, and it spits out the number.
But what you plug in,
you can
be arguable. For example, I know they make this kind of money, okay, for income, but let's look at what can we prove, right? Because it's we use this term, and especially when I was doing criminal law, we use this term. But what does the evidence show? You can be guilty of something all day long, but hey, if the evidence is, if the evidence isn't there, then it's not there. They can't prove it. And so it's looking at, but what can we prove? And that's kind of where the legal aspect, where you need that lawyer to look and evaluate. Like, I've got this document, I'm going to introduce an evidence. That's not going to fly. That's not authenticated. That's hearsay unless we can get it certified, like get it certified as a business record. Those are the type of where you take practical knowledge and say, okay, this is what you need the lawyer for. This is not just, oh, it's whatever is fair. Let me just go argue that. No.
Yeah.
You need to know what the judge thinks is, and then plus the law, and then the arguments, in the case law, kind of cohesive with all of that.
Right. There's a lot. It's a lot more involved than a lot of people even know.
That, but it's true. Yeah. A lot of it is through experience and local experience, and so building that with the client so that I can say, just tell them the real. So tell them the honest reality about what's going on. And again, even with that, and you're talking about emotions with the clients. Even with that, I get to know my clients where it's like, you know what? There's some clients where opposing party files a motion. Okay. It's full of stuff that I know is going to, we go back to the feelings throughout the case. I know it's going to piss off that client. Like, they're going to be mad. It makes me mad reading it, and it's not even me, right?
Right.
If it does that,
you're going to be mad. If it's affecting you, it's going to affect
Or
them.
if I know it's full of lies, right? Because I've got tangible evidence, like this is a lie. Like, the child support payment was made. Here is the bank statement. Just something like that. Full of lies, right? The client, I know the client well enough at that point where I know, okay, can I just share this with them? Just, on the client portal. Don't need to send them a message because they're going to roll their eyes and be like, oh, whatever. Of course they're saying this. Or is it, no. We got that, but I'll tell my paralegal, don't share that with them yet. Because what I need to do is schedule a meeting with them, have them come in. We can go over the document together so that way I can give them my live feedback at the same time. Because again, that's mental health. Is that the law of that's what you have to do before sharing the motion with them? Absolutely not. The law is you got to share all the pleadings with the client. How do you do that? Right? And it's not the same for each client. It's not, okay, like my paralegal knows, it's not we get the pleading in, I'm going to go ahead, upload it, and share it with the client.
It's not a cut and dry.
No.
It's very individual.
What does Stephanie, let me ask her and make sure how she wants this to be shared.
How do you want to handle it?
And when? Mm-hmm. Because there's the timing aspect too of, what? It's a Friday, something, a lie, whatever, they're going to have to interact with their ex this weekend at whatever event.
Mentally
Let's
prepare.
not put this on them, because what is that going to change? Them hearing it next week when we can sit and talk and meet, that's going to be more beneficial. The pros outweigh the cons. And so doing that, but the only way you can do that is if you really do kind of hone in on where is the client at mentally.
Paying attention. Yeah.
And then going back to some of my clients, I do have some of my clients where I have that contact information of their therapist where I'm saying, again, and that's with full permission from the client.
Oh, yeah, release of information. There's all kinds of documentation we go through to collaborate.
Yeah.
We're not just randomly willy-nilly out here talking about people. Like,
they've given permission for us to collaborate on it, like, directly.
Yes.
And, and they'll say, hey, or I can say, hey, this is what's going on. They have court coming up, or if they haven't told you, or, or.
Oh, I encourage it. I'm like, let's go ahead and sign that ROI with your lawyer just so I can touch base with them.
Yep. And it's not me saying, like, you're not telling me what legal advice to do and what legal argument to make. And I'm not telling you what to talk about in your sessions.
It's that village. To say, let's all be on the same page here. It's the same with the doctor. Like, let's all
tag your it, right?
Yep.
But also fill me in. I want to recap. But tag your it of this is your thing.
Hey, this is what we're
Walk
working
them
on.
through it. Yeah. Because I'd much rather, again, it's cohesive. It's the village. I want to get to the end of the case and say, thank you for letting me advocate on your behalf. And, I wish you all the best on this journey of all these things you've got moving forward. It's not a, here's your file, I got my payment, peace out. Like, that is just not how I want to practice law.
No, good. It shouldn't, that's the way it should be. It should be individual. It should be about your connection. For me, the client rapport is we learned that in school. It's the most important aspect of that counseling session is the rapport, because again, and I've said this a million times, how can you expect somebody to talk about their deepest, darkest fears and blah, 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 if there's no rapport? Like, it's important that you have that you build that relationship, that you hear and see them. And that's a big theme in divorces is I don't feel heard or seen.
Yeah. And
they might not use those terms, but essentially that's what they're getting at.
Well, and it's the going back to, I think it goes back to, well, when this is all said and done, this is my life, right? Like, and I definitely value that because it's true. Like, at the end of the day, and I'm not going to say it, like, at the end of the day, I get to go home and live my life. Yes. But don't think that, to an extent of I'm not still thinking about, problem solving, trying to problem solve for you. For what I can do. There's definitely limits. And as professionals have to have those mental boundaries or you're going to get burned out. Yep. But I think it's the lawyers that have too much of a boundary that it's a problem because then it just becomes come in, check the box, bye, done. Yeah. Leave me a bad review, leave me a good review. I really don't care because I got paid. That's the problem. Being complacent is the problem because
purpose or money.
Yeah.
And there's definitely, are you following your purpose or are you just doing it for money?
Right.
I don't do jobs for money anymore. I don't even know the last time I did.
Right. And it's, because there's not longevity in that. And it's it's just as a human being, you sit down, I've got clients going back to making them comfortable. That is huge for me. Like, in terms of, and I'm a lot more confident, I'm almost 10 years out of law school.
Right.
I'm a lot more confident where I'm not trying to if you come in to meet with me, hopefully I'll just, kind of put that plug, look me up, in terms of.
Oh, do your research for sure. I tell that to everybody.
Talk to other clients that I've had. That's fine. I'm not here to prove myself to you.
Exactly.
I am not here to spend the first half of our consultation telling you why you should choose me because I'm this amazing.
Pick me. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like all stiff and like, let me just recite the fact that I know, the exact statutory code for that attorney's fees section. Do I know some of that? Most of that. Sure. Great. Awesome. But that's not what you're here for. If, that's not my style. So if you're looking for that, cool, we probably won't vibe.
Right. I'm more of a human approach. I'm like human.
Yeah.
And that's how I treat it.
So I know those things, I promise some of my clients, a lot of my clients find me in court because they see, I think the actions speak louder than words, watch, it seems like, okay. And that's another kind of, I think, controversial aspect of like, as a female lawyer, it's like, but don't you feel like, I think younger, or I would say less experienced female attorneys would say, well, don't you feel like you need to kind of, especially with male clients, don't you feel like you need to like validate yourself, kind of make you appear? And I'm like, no, I don't. And I think it's because I've got that confidence in myself where
Absolutely.
If you are coming to me, you are paying for legal advice from me. I now want to get to know you so I can tell you that legal advice better. And that's what I tell clients, I'm like, get comfortable. I know that just walking in that door could be very scary.
Yeah.
Because for some people cannot wait to get on my books. Awesome. I'm here for you. Awesome. Yeah. But there's other people that it's like, it took a lot of courage. And maybe I don't know that, right? But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to assume.
Right.
And maybe it took a lot for you to get the courage to come in that door because some people are like, okay, this is real now. Yeah. Like it's
the same with mental health though.
Yeah.
The courage it takes just to make that appointment.
Yep. And, and so it's like, come in, get comfortable. What we talk about in here is covered by attorney-client privilege. What I mean by that is tell me anything as long as that you're not about to kill somebody.
Same. It's pretty much the same.
Yeah. Tell me. And I promise, and I say this because it's true, there's no silly question because you'd be shocked at what's applicable with family law. You would be shocked about they weren't going to tell me this and it ended up being this huge changing factor. And I'm like, talk to me about those things. And then again, in that, I'm picking up on what do they feel about this? Are they, where I can tell, what led to this divorce. And just hearing whether or not there's factual evidence, I'm not asking for that at that point. I'm saying, trying to read as far as how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Because then I can be able to
gauge them. Yeah, for sure.
So that I can tell you, okay, I'm telling you the legal advice, but how do I tell you that? Yeah. How is that going to be better taken? Is kind of what I'm doing. I think subconsciously.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's like it's a superpower.
Oh, cool.
We have like pattern recognitions and we just pick up on like literally in a lot of the professions where we collaborate. And even when I had Amber Foster on here, the nurse practitioner, she would say the same thing. She's like, I can pick up trauma like nobody's business. I'm like, it's pattern recognition. It's like a feel. It's like literally we're superpowers.
And it is why I do prefer to have, I tell my clients, I'm flexible. Obviously, I've got the Zoom capabilities and the phone calls.
Telehealth just isn't the same. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's necessary, but I prefer face to face. I want to be in the energy and I want to feel all the things. And when you're on a screen, it's just different.
It is, and just being able to pick up on those cues, and probably more so for you. But even, for me, just because I feel like it's also the client. Again, it goes back to, is that a good fit for the client? Am I a good fit for the client? I recognize I don't really think too much about it, of like, 'cause I'm not there to sell myself.
Right.
Of like, oh, they're actually wondering, and same with you. Are they wanting, am I going to be the resource that they want? And it's kind of like I kind of come, that word's harshly, but take me as I am, sort of like take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's, I don't really think about that portion of it, but I do think more so of like,
I never take it personal.
Oh no.
Like if, and it does happen occasionally, but if somebody were like, just not feeling it, let me find you somebody. Let me find you somebody.
I mean, for me,
because my goal is just
for your health overall.
The client's overall health. It's not, since there's no personal gain in it.
It's a little different in that sense of like, I don't typically hear that, right? Like, so like after the fact, you're not going to hear, I didn't hire you because whatever.
Typically, they don't. They just typically disappear. But I always tell them in the first session, I'm like, listen, I'm not for everybody. And I'm okay with that. Like I'm very secure in who I am. So if you don't feel a connection, I don't take it personal. So let me help you find somebody.
For me, I find it helpful for me to vet clients. And again, I hate saying it like that, vet clients, but it is. I mean, I am vetting because there's the red flags of, are you about to have a client? Because it saves you. And that's how you are able, again, systems and having boundaries. And there's a lot of different facts, about that I would love, to share with younger attorneys about the fact of like, how are you going to be, like, how do you do family law for so long and not burn out? This is part of that is you vet your clients. You set the boundaries of what is acceptable. You come in crying, that's acceptable to me. Like those aren't what scares me. You come in yelling and I know it's not at me. Okay. There's other red flags. Like I ask you for documentation for discovery purposes and you're not, you're basically purposely redacting things. Yeah. I'm not putting my name to that. You're being a liar. Yeah. I'm not lying to the court. Those types of things. Or, well, if I pay you more, can you just do it? Like, no.
It's not really how that works.
Right. Those are the types of behavior that are the red flags, right? Not the showing emotion. That's not. Now, for some attorneys, maybe it is, right?
Well, we expect. I mean, you have to expect that to some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big life change.
Yeah, but I think when people are coming, and again, yes, we would think that. But from my perspective of family law attorneys as a whole, actually, no. A lot of them are like, you're in the wrong office for that. You're at the law firm. You go to your therapist's office for that. At your law firm, you come in and we talk about what's the next steps. And again, I'm not saying, clients come to me and disheveled and like I put their lives back together. No. Right. Again, that's the collaboration. That's the tag you're at. I'm not, experienced for that. That's not my expertise. But it's the you're human, I'm human. Okay. I've also, by the way, have a lot of experience with, I've probably talked to more divorced people than you ever will meet in your life, right? Because of what type of work I do. So with that knowledge, what can I help you as a human being, right? And that sort of mixed with, yes, of course, there's the legal advice involved. So it's the vetting the client, though, for expectations. Because I have other clients, again, that are like, well, this is what I want. Okay, but that's not, like I'm telling you, you aren't going to get 100% of equity in the marital home. Obviously in that certain circumstance. Right. And it's like, they look at me and like, I would rather tell them right then in the consultation than hear they pay me money, retain me, and then we're halfway in the case and they're talking about how terrible, they're blasting me to the public about how terrible she is because I didn't get, all of this that I should have gotten. Let's just tell you now. And if you want to go try to cherry pick, which you're probably not gonna be able to do, an attorney that's going to tell you, yeah, you can do that and get that. Fine. That's awesome. That's awesome because that has now saved me a huge headache. Yeah, exactly. So the headaches is not the, oh gosh, a client that's really upset or emotional. That's not at all. And again, upset meaning like it can be angry as long as that's not, you're not yelling at me. I mean, I'm not gonna, as long as you're not gonna yell at me. Right. I tell you that right now. But that's sort of the dynamic about
What, for all the listeners out there, and I'm sure there's plenty that are in this situation
Yeah.
or maybe contemplating this situation, do you have any like tips or just any kind of from your perspective, any tips from if they're considering divorce?
Sure. So, I mean, I would say that walking into a law firm, walking in to speak with a lawyer, it's just a meeting. And I know it is just a meeting. It's an important meeting. You're going to hopefully gain very insightful information and hopefully feel empowered. But it is a meeting. What I mean by that is, on the emotional side of it, I understand of me meeting means that I'm getting a divorce. And maybe I'm not ready to make that decision yet. Cool. Meeting does not mean that you are ready to get divorced. Meeting does not mean that you'll ever get divorced.
Right.
Right? It's I want to be informed. And so, I'm all about making sure, and I tell my clients, again, they're probably like rolling their eyes when they watch this, but it's because I say this to them. I say, I am here to make sure that you're making an informed decision.
Yeah.
And so, informed meaning the facts and the law and the application in this courtroom in front of this judge. That's the informed, and that's what I'm there for. There's no judgment on, where that goes from there. And so if I see you, and I actually use this as a specific example because I practice in a small town, Covington, Walton County, small towns. And I say this to say that I promise you could come in and meet with me, right? And a year later, I might see you and your husband in the grocery store. I remember faces pretty well. I probably maybe put two and two. I'm not remember the facts of what we talked about in this meeting, but I'll remember, that's probably in my mind. I'll remember that you came in, and that's all that is. It doesn't matter. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
They're out there. Awesome. There's no judgment in that. And there genuinely isn't, because it's not, I just want them to know that there's really no judgment, and it stays right here. This is a meeting between you and me just to talk.
Well, and I think it's important to do that. Like we had talked earlier about that consultation and like be prepared. Like just because you have a consultation doesn't mean you're going in for divorce.
Yeah, and I have some clients that are like they're going in for a consultation because they got served divorce papers.
Yeah, I mean, some people are like, yeah, I want this, or they
don't, but they got served, and so it's like it's happening.
But those people that are like, do I want a divorce?
Yeah.
Like, what are my options?
Yeah.
Like the financial questions, all of those things. Like,
Yeah.
I think that consultation it's just a meeting. It's not like you're going to meet and you're signing papers. Like, I think people can kind of make it a big thing.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of, we need to like.
It is. And again, I think that goes back to, and again, this is just from my own life experience of like, oh, like they saw me there, so they probably, wonder what so-and-so thinks, or, if
fear judgment. I get it all the time.
Yes. And it's like, I promise nobody knows. Like, it's me. And I sure don't care. I'm like, that's great. And plus you're a smart person for planning. Again, this is a major life event. So why would you go into a major life event if you can help it, right? Like, you can't, some people don't know that they're going to get divorced. But if you can help it, going into a major life event and not have some facts about how to better support yourself, which will eventually help with your mental health with it. You can meet with me, and what I find most often is after clients meet with me, they feel a sense of probably better about what a divorce is going to look like.
Yeah,
like they're like, okay, I can make this work. There are some clients though, and you'd rather know it right ahead of time, that they're like, oh, financially, that's going to be hard, horrible, whatever, and it's better to know ahead of time. Right. And I don't necessarily want you to come to me and like, and say, well, I can't get divorced. I just gotta be miserable the rest of my life. Well, no, there's definitely answers to that.
Right.
But it's like with anything, if your goal is the divorce, what do you need to accomplish to get there?
Exactly. There's the work in between. It's not just a magic wand.
Correct. And again, if you are already there, meaning maybe you got served and you came out of nowhere to you. And I don't mean like come out, maybe your family's like, well, of course you got served. Like we all expected this. But I'm talking about to you.
Right.
Because there's a difference. There's a difference between the whole world saw that coming and you saw it coming.
Right.
Yes. And, and again, it's like, okay, well, let's just catch up, right? Like it doesn't mean that you're going to be screwed and this is going to be so difficult for you. It just means okay, well, let's catch up and you might need to start moving on some things a little bit quicker. Whereas there's not going to be a timeline if you're coming in just contemplation stage, pre-filing.
Yeah, be prepared. So ultimately, book the consultation, be prepared.
Yeah.
Just get your ducks in a row.
Yeah. And I have clients that come in and they're like, I don't know how much our mortgage is. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
And things like that. And I tell them, that's okay. And the consultation's still worth it. Like, I'm not sure if I'll go ahead and write it down, have it for my notes, to go back on, and I can start running some just mental, okay, so you've got about this much equity, just some mental, figurative advice. But as far as it's still okay, if they look at me, they're like embarrassed because they don't know that information. And I'm like, no, guess what? We have what's called discovery process, which means that we'll get it. We just don't know right now. Yeah. Or I can try to empower them and say, okay, but is there ways that you can, like, if is there ways, like if your name is on the house, you can call about the water bill, and figure, there's things you can do. You can look it up to see if her name's on the deed. I can find that information for you. Things like that. I don't ever want people to think I need to go to a law firm. And when I have that consultation, they need me to know everything about the financial circumstances, and they don't know. They don't know it. And there's no way for them to know it, depending on, what type of control aspect is there. I've seen it. I've absolutely seen it.
I'm sure.
And that's more so where it's like, oh no, you are taking control of your life. We are going to have it where these things. But anyway.
I go through that too in my,
yeah.
Like a lot.
And there's no judgment there, because I'm like, if anything, I revert back and I'm like, it's because you were happily married. You thought you could trust this person. Again, that doesn't make you dumb. You don't go into a marriage expecting a divorce.
Exactly.
So there's no judgment there.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, but let's re-empower you on this, because this, you do need to know, because this is what's happening, and it's okay. We'll just figure it out through discovery. We'll get it. So yeah, I just don't want people to kind of be like, the lawyer has these expectations when they come in. Yeah. And when I meet with them, that they're going to ask me all these things. And if I don't know it, it's going to be a waste of time. Not at all. Because I can also look up, I can tell you information. Like, I know how much you paid for your house. I look those things up for my preparation and meeting with you.
Of course.
When you bought your house, how much is it roughly worth now? I know all that before I meet with you.
Yes, of course.
So I'm saying, I can still give you good advice on things. It's just but this could go this way or this way, depending on, and we're going to find out this information once we exchange discovery. So yeah, just not having that fear. Going into it, it's just you're making informed decisions, and that's what you should do in this world, right? Yeah. Educated, be educated.
Awesome.
On all things that you can.
Agreed. Thank you so much for being here and talking through this. Again, I want to have you on at a later date to talk about the custody part of it, because I do think it's two together but separate things, and there's a lot of emotions involved with the custody battle part of it too. And I see it in session. That's in sessions as well. So thank you so much.
It was great. Thank you so much for letting me join in on your podcast.
I'm so glad that you came. When we dress alike and we have Halifax connections, and it was just meant to be. Thank you all for tuning in for this episode. Remember to like, share, post, comments, all of the things. If there's anything you want me to talk about going forward, any topics, please comment. You can reach me via email. We have Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So I think we've got all that covered. Again, thank you so much for being here, and until we meet again.